What's up?
Oh, Grace, you're the best friend ever.
And it is starting. Okay.
Right.
Here we are. We are doing this without the aid of the bumper. It seems like once we started the little intro video that nothing came through after that. Hello. There we go. Yeah. Okay, we're actually going to do it this time. And
Okay.
Anyway, Dale, you had a week off from sports, I guess, in spite of it being Super Bowl weekend. But your blog today was kind of a trip down memory lane. It appears that you made a little trip out to Seattle on a cruise.
Yeah, back in August, we met with her family. We're all from here. We all lived close together, but her mother and father wanted to take a big cruise to Alaska. So there was a total of 8 or 10 of us going. So my wife and I went out to Seattle a couple days beforehand, just us, before we met everybody. So so we went to Seattle. Never been there. Fascinating town. Really enjoyed our time there. Stayed. This blog was about the bed and breakfast we stayed at, which was an old restored manor, a mansion, which was a beautiful place. And,
Yeah, I think it was built like over 100 years ago.
Yeah, and it was huge. I mean, the third floor where we stayed hosted a big ballroom. It was that extravagant. So it was just a fascinating place. And so we took some pictures, and I always like to try to make a blog of something that we experience. And one of the blogs that I did previously to that was our time in Seattle, where we walked around Pike Place Market, and saw the fish toss, and just enjoyed the scenes there in Seattle, and was very pleased with that city, and would probably go back sometime.
Well, I actually went to Seattle, flew into SeaTac, and it was quite a cultural diversion from the deep south. I'll tell you, say it that way.
It is.
I wasn't there long, but I was actually catching a cruise with Dr. Tony Evans.
Yeah.
And it actually left from British Columbia. So you can take a bus. What a nice drive that was. And it's quite, I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise with Tony Evans or anything like that, a spiritual retreat, but that was a week-long cruise at several ports of call. But it was great because once you get up there, salmon is cheaper than hamburger here.
Yeah, we took a train up to Vancouver and boarded the ship there. Actually, one of my excursions was my wife and I went out and did a private charter, and I caught a lot of salmon. And in fact, we still have some of it here in the freezer. So it was really good to eat.
There's a big difference between caught and bought.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
there is. But it's the building you were in. I wonder, it may be in better condition today than when they first built it, or it certainly is in better condition than after they did some renovations. Every detail.
Oh, I'm sure. Time takes its toll on everything, and so I think they really
I'm feeling
support the effort. Yeah, me too. So we really enjoyed that place, and it was right, just a stone throw away from downtown. Took a little tram in, so have no qualms about going back there. But yeah, I decided to take a little hiatus from sports just for a couple of weeks. I have something coming up this weekend. It's kind of sports related, so. And then in 2 weeks, the release of Dugout Devotions comes out. We had some really good news this week. Actually, we got confirmation that Pittsburgh Pirates manager Clint Hurdle agreed to meet me in Pittsburgh on May the 4th and do a book signing at the Barnes & Noble there. So I think that'll be a big draw.
That's big. That's huge for both of
Yeah.
you.
Well, people don't know who I am, but folks in Pittsburgh love Clint Hurdle, and he's for various reasons. One, because people know where he stands. He's very transparent about his faith, and he's very honest and open about his faith. He doesn't push it on people. But if you talk to Clint Hurdle more than 3 minutes, you know where he stands, and so he's very transparent about it. But he loves his players, and he's turned that program around there in Pittsburgh. So the fans really love Clint Hurdle. So I'm fortunate enough to have developed a friendship with him over the last couple of years, and we just sent a text to him the other day saying, "Hey, would love to do a book signing up there. Give us, here's a couple of dates." And he said May 4 will definitely work out. There's a night game with Oakland is in town that weekend, so we're going to meet like at 10 or 10:30 there at the Barnes and Noble in downtown on Duquesne University. So we're real excited about that.
One of the things that I tweet it now and then, but I brought this up in a men's group, is one of our spiritual challenges is how long does it take when you first meet a person for them to figure out you're a Christian, or do they ever? Sometimes when you meet a person, you can just tell by their countenance, by their the way that they look at things and the way they speak. You can tell that they're grounded in the Christian faith, and he sounds like one of those persons. So that would be my challenge: is be that kind of person that when somebody meets you for the first time, and I don't mean at church, folks,
Right.
that they will know where you stand even without you making an explicit statement, and that's powerful.
Yeah, and that's one of my devotions focuses on that, how you can make a statement, at the workplace, but you don't have to be, come off as domineering or, shove it down somebody's throat, but yet you want to take a stand and let people know where you're at. And you can do little things. You can bow your head before lunch or breakfast, and not get into a 55-minute prayer, but just let people will see that. You can have your Bible on your desk. You can say when you're talking to some folks, "Hey, how was your weekend? And we really had a good church service," and without being overbearing or turn people off, you can really you can set the tone there.
One of the things that I do as often as I can, and I stop at the same place every morning to get coffee on my way to work, because they've got one of those things that grinds the beans right there. It's only $1.50 for a cup of coffee. Yeah. And I mean, man cup coffee. I mean,
yes.
Make you go. Anyway. Well, so if there's somebody else getting coffee behind me in line, the clerk already, I do this often enough, she already knows. I'll say, behind me, and she'll ring up the cup of coffee for the person behind me. And it's kind of interesting because in most cases, let's be honest, they don't care that nothing gets said or done. But sometimes they will chase you down in the parking lot and say, "Thank you. Why did you do that?" Well, that's a chance just to do a random act of kindness and associate that with your faith. And say, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and I just wanted to do something to uplift your day, get you off to a good start. That's not intimidating, that's not threatening, that's not pushing, but sometimes another little thing you can do, it's not hard. Now this one takes a little bit more courage, but when you order, if you're at a restaurant and you order, the waiter or waitress, whoever's taking care of you, I will say, listen, we're going to have a blessing before the meal, so it's no trouble at all. If there's anything, I'm going to pray anyway, so if there's anything you want me to take up with God, I'll be glad to do that. Now, some of them get, I don't, but some of them open up, and it's a chance to minister to somebody, and it literally is no incremental, quote, cost, because you're going to say a blessing anyway. Now, that assumes that you have the courage to actually say a blessing in a public place. Used to be you saw that more often than you do today.
Yeah. Thanks. There's some places where you could almost be thrown out for doing that anymore. So,
well, some places you get thrown out for showing up. Ask Huckabee.
Yeah, really. Yeah, Yeah, that was one of the focuses in one of my many conversations with Clint. He, in fact, in the devotion, he says, if you talk to me 3 or 4 minutes, you're going to know I'm a Christian, because he had a rough life. I mean, he had a really he says his journey is a Christian obstacle course. That's how he described it, because he was dubbed by Sports Illustrated when he was coming up, when he was 20 or 21 years old, as the next great phenom in baseball. I mean, he was heralded, and he admits, he said, "Hey, I let alcohol get the best of me. I had problems with my relationships with people, and he had a rough career, and so he told me he had to hit rock bottom before he was able to turn his life around. And now he's, he sends out daily texts to people and daily motivational and inspirational emails that I get every day. It's almost clockwork. 5:30 in the morning, there's my text from Clint Hurdle saying, with this scripture, challenging me to do something good today. So he's really come around, and he's really, that's his message now. He's very transparent about his faith, but he also has to coach a baseball team, so he takes it very serious. Yeah.
He hollers at millionaires, and
yeah, he does. Yeah.
Your blog was kind of a break, a diversion from your normal sports, devotional, spiritual thing, but it was not without a spiritual spin. Okay, because when you just mentioned that the coach of the Pittsburgh Pirates at one time was having a struggle. So sometimes you have to get torn down, it seems. And when you find out that you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you can't handle things on your own, you realize that you are dependent. You realize that you do need something. I've experienced this in disaster relief, but sometimes to build back, you got to tear down first. So rebuilding and remodeling a house, there is a spiritual message there. Oh
yeah, you gotta get rid of the old stuff, whatever that might be. So I think that's up to each person to decide, to let God tell you what needs to get out of your life. So it could be some of the friends you hang with. It could be some of the things you look at online. It could be personal relationships. So that's something in my eye there. But you have to get rid of some of the old stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes a ship in the storm has to throw very good stuff overboard to make the journey. But now you've got, I don't know how you keep up. Do you have a day job?
Oh yeah. I work 40, 50, 60 hours a week job, a regular job. Yes.
I don't know where you find time to do some of the outstanding. I mean,
I don't either.
You're supposed to be writing books. You've got a book coming out in August. I read a few chapters of that, and I'm looking forward to recommending that to some men's group. There's a lot of men's group that need that kind of material. First Down Devotions. Yeah,
we're excited about that because it's going to be a series. Here's Dugout Devotions, which comes out in 2 weeks. First Down Devotions is in what's called the Stars of Faith series in this book. And First Down Devotions, I spent the whole year last year interviewing NFL players. So, and that was exciting and fun, but it was a lot of work. So First Down Devotions is just in line with Dugout Devotions. It's just a different sport. But some of the top names in football, I sat down with one-on-one interviews. And, I sat down with Andy Dalton of the Bengals and Ben Roethlisberger of the Steelers and Benjamin Watson, who's going to retire after this year. So, as some of the bigger, most famous folks who have retired, like sat down with Anthony Munoz, probably the greatest offensive lineman ever to play the game. I sat down with Kurt Warner at the Super Bowl last year and talked to Kurt about his boldness, because he's very bold when he talks about his faith. And it was a lot of fun to do that book.
Well, what's kind of nice is that each chapter can be read with a cup of coffee. And it won't sit there. You don't have to commit yourself, to a section of time. You could literally just sit down and relax with a cup of coffee, and the book and the coffee both warm you from the inside out. It's really cool.
Yeah, these chapters are meant to be short, to the point where you or me or whoever picks it up can sit down, grab a cup of coffee, read a chapter in 3 to 4 minutes. It's about 700-800 words. It doesn't take that long, and hopefully drive home a good motivational, inspirational, spiritual point to start your day. And we've tried to make them, because every devotion in this baseball book I can relate to. It's something I've experienced as well. So it wasn't easy. It was easier to write because I experienced some of these things too. So I mean, I experience times when I get down. I experience things how I can be better. I've struck out at times, and I've messed up at times, like everybody else has. So, it was. We have a lot of good promotions coming up for Dugout Devotions. We've got a lot of good things in the making. The book signing with Clint Hurdle is going to be fun. We've got some other things lined up too as well.
Well, it amazes me that you're able to gain audience with some of the names that you have connected with and gotten in front of. But in your encounters with them, does it get to that point where they kind of let their guard down and because we have this vision, whether it's a football athlete or a professional athlete in any sport or a Hollywood celebrity, the fact is we only know that. And they're no different than us in so many ways. They struggle, they have problems, and do they kind of let their guard down at some point, or do they keep their face on?
No, when I start talking to them about their faith, and because I ask them about personal struggles, what have you gone through? And a lot of them say not the same thing, but a lot of them have similar stories. But then you run across some who, in Dugout Devotions, it's the last chapter. I spoke with Mr. Frazier with the Pirates down in spring training last year, and he caught me off guard because some of these guys say the same things. I said, "What do you struggle with? And how does your faith help you get through these struggles?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I'm a young man down here in Florida playing baseball." He says, "I struggle with lust." Mm-hmm. And he says, "Look around out. When you walk outside, look around." And I did, and my golly, it was. You see all these, and it's not bad. You see all these beautiful, girls walking around,
and it's warm,
and it's warm. And he's honest. He's like, I get, requests, and I'm on social media. He said, I got to shut some of this stuff off, and he says that's what I struggle with. And I was like, well, he was very open about it. So he completely let his guard. Yeah, he completely let his guard down and opened up to me about something he struggles with.
Yeah, well, if a young man, shared that with me, I'd say, well, if you weren't struggling with that, I'd need to tell you to go see a doctor.
And then how he talked about how all the other guys, look out for each other. Like, if they see, somebody's going to go make a mistake, they say, hey, man, come on, you got a lot to risk here. So. He was very open about it because I told him what I was doing. I said, I want to talk about your faith and some of your struggles. And he said, man, it's lust. And one of them said, I had a hard time, with alcoholism, and I had a rough time with drugs. I mean, Michael Lorenzen with the Reds was very open about how he was a star high school player, and he was sure bet going to go to the pros, and how he was in college and got with the wrong crowd, and he was, he said he was high on dope when he got saved. No, when he got convicted, he said he was at Huntington Beach, California, with some buddies walking on the pier, and he says he was high as a kite, and heard this man preaching the gospel out there, and he said he walked up to him, and they were all making fun of this guy. And he said that he went back home that night and couldn't get away from it. He said he had to turn his life over to God because he said he was doing the wrong things. He knew he was messing up. So, and he was very open about that. He said, hey, I got saved. I got convicted when I was high, but I knew right from wrong.
Well, it's very easy as you become a celebrity, as you get that money, you get that spotlight on you, you begin to think you're something more than you really, really are. It's hard to keep a humble countenance, a humble spirit, and money is power. You will be treated very well on the surface if you walk in with a platinum card. You'll have friends everywhere. Now, once you run out of money, those, you'll look around and you'll wonder,
Yeah.
where were all those people that thought so highly of me? One of the things that I have found in my own life, and as well as sharing with other believers, is when times get tough and you get down, that's when you find out who your real friends are.
Yeah, and I have a great example of that in First Down Devotions when I spent some time with Chad Pennington up at the Super Bowl last year. Chad, obviously, from Marshall University, which is real close to where I live. He had a good, solid career in the NFL with the Jets, and then later on with the Dolphins. But Chad said at one time he hated football. He hated the game that he loved for years because towards the end of his career he got benched. And he said he hated everything about football. He said how all these people turned their backs on him, and how he had to learn to go through he called it his own personal furnace, because now what he does, he said he hated the game so bad that he just got sick. And when he finally retired, he works with the NFL now as a consultant to help players adapt to life after football. And he says that he went through that before he retired.
Wow.
So he can now help players, because when they get out and they retire, all the fanfare's gone, all the money's gone, nobody's wanting autographs anymore. Their identity is gone, and how they deal with that. Because, there's a lot of them go into depression, a lot of them go broke. Mm-hmm. So he helps them to deal with life after football. And so his personal experience going through it before he retired helped him tremendously, and it's just a great story that Chad, again, he opened up to me about that.
Well, it's hard to find people. It's hard to gain sympathy for someone who's making that kind of money. But here's the reality that you're illustrating is we live in a culture that offers performance-based acceptance. Okay, as long as you're performing, you're rewarded. In fact, in sports, well overcompensated, very much overcompensated. But it's performance based. In other words, they don't really like you; they like what you're doing for them.
Yeah, I did a piece recently for Athletes in Action that deals with performance, and how Tracy Hansen, who's a retired LPGA tour player, very successful, very good career. She said her addiction was performance. Mm-hmm. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't money. It wasn't fame. It was her performance, because the more she won, the more her father accepted her. And so she played to win for his adoration. And so, she gets really in depth about some of the struggles she went through, about how she was addicted to performance.
Well, this is what the gospel message has to offer, that has no equal, has no parallel, has no competition. You see, Jesus loved you and me. We didn't have to earn that love. He gave his life. It didn't matter that whether you're the lowest man on the totem pole, you're a homeless person, or whether you're in high political office, or you're a Hollywood star, or a professional athlete. Jesus loves you for who you are.
Yeah.
And we as Christians are admonished to love one another for who they are, rather than what they do. And in the business world, we reward performance. That you sell more, you get more pay. You hire good people and they make it to management. But that's based on performance, because if you stop performing, you're out. And you are rejected. It's called being fired. So this is a different model than you're going to find in the world and in sports and in Hollywood. God's love has nothing to do with how lovable we are. And that's hard to understand. One of the examples that in real life that made this clear to me is I was the disaster relief director for the Florida Baptist Association. Now, the fact of the matter is I was kind of living a double life. They knew me as that person, but then outside of that, I was living a very different life that was not pleasing to the Lord. Well, I kind of got turned around, and I went into the executive director and said, you need to find somebody else. Let me tell you, you don't know who I really am. Let me tell you some of the things that I've been involved in. And I just spilled my guts. And I fully expected him to say, well, thank you for your service. He says, doesn't matter. doesn't matter. And this happened. I had to go to 2 other people, and this is when I experienced genuine love, unconditional love. Because if I would have told the country club that story, I would not have been a member any longer. If I would have told, so we have a different model. Christ gives us a different model about love. It's agape love. It has nothing to do with contract. It has nothing to do with mutual need fulfillment. It's simply loving one another. And I'm just grateful that you're able to get to these people and get their story, because we think they're superstars when really they're just people.
Oh yeah. They have the same circumstances we face. They just, a lot of them have just a lot more resources to deal with some of the issues that we face. We can't just run out and buy a new car if our one breaks down, where they can just have their pick. But I guess they put a lot of time in, and they do sacrifice a lot to earn that. So, but yeah, they have problems just like you and me. I mean, Clint Hurdle told me, he has a special needs child that he loves, but that's something they have to deal with. So, and they all have their own issues.
Dale, your calendar, you mentioned a couple of things. Try to go through your calendar in the upcoming weeks. You've got some, I don't know how you do it. What's your next 3 gigs?
I think I'm going to do I need to get a personal assistant. I have a big event this Friday night in Huntington, West Virginia. We're going to be helping out with the Tim Tebow Foundation, their Night to Shine. And, if he shows up, that'd be great. We have, of course, in 2 weeks, they got Devotions releases officially. August 5th, First Down Devotions releases. I'll be making my rounds here in the next few weeks, going back down and talking to more Major League Baseball players as the season opens up. Have a book coming out. I don't know the date yet. It's called Bengal Believer. It's done. They were just waiting on a date. It's a devotional for Cincinnati Bengals fans. Just turned in a book with my agent, Kyle Young. We did a book together. It's called Michigan Motivations, which is a story about Michigan football, which is hard for me to write. And and right now I'm right in the middle of writing a book with my friend Michelle Medlock Adams. We haven't decided on the title yet, but we're leaning towards Indiana inspirations, and it's a book about Indiana basketball. And she's a big Hoosier fan. So we're doing that book together, and those 2 will release in 2020. And so we've got a full docket, down the road. But I'd rather do this than be bored today. It's a lot of fun, and I've got to get a shout out to my agent Kyle Young. I've given a shout out to New Hope Publishers for who've done a great job with this book. It looks great, it feels great. Iron Stream Media, and then Baker Taylor. They're the folks putting the book out. Just got word that Barnes & Noble made a big buy, and Books A Million made a big buy with the book. And we're going to Book Expo again in New York City in May, and that's always a fun time.
Wow. Kyle seems, I'd love to meet him. Electronically or in person. It would be because apparently, in the time we spent together, that was one of those pivot points in your life and in your career. I just get that sense. I could be wrong.
No, it's when we met down in Florida. That was, we just seemed to have a great spirit with each other. He saw something to me that took a chance on me because I didn't have a history. I was an unpublished, unknown author, and he didn't take I don't think he took a chance. He saw something in me that is now coming out, and so I will put the bat signal out, and we'll be talking. We have a conference call here real soon, and I'll see if he'd be willing to jump on here. So
that'd be fun.
Yeah. He's Kyle's a good guy. He's a pastor. Played for the University of Michigan back in 1997. Won a national championship. So
wow.
So he's a really good guy. But I think he's a closet Buckeye. But we'll have to wait and see about that.
We'll see. Dale, I can't wait. Hey, listen, man, sorry we had so many problems earlier, but it's been worth it, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience, and we'll get things going right, man. Now, hang on the line here. I wanted to follow up when we get off the air.
Sure thing. Thank you.
All right, man. Okay, there we have, if I can clear him off the screen. There he's gone. All right, folks, thank you for your patience as we navigate. We've got more horsepower under the hood than we can get traction on at the moment. The wheels are just spinning. But it's been great being with you, and I'm almost afraid to play the bumper, but since it's at the end, we'll go ahead and send out everything here, and we'll see you coming up soon here on PJNet Live.